Well, good morning, folks. It's the real Captain Kirk here. It is the 4th of January, 2021. So happy 2021 here. Thought we'd do a recap here of December. Now, this is a 5-week retail calendar December. This is how our big retail customers around the world like to look at the weather. So these are maps or temps versus average, and the small maps inset left are temp trends versus last year. For the U.S., we are about 1.5 degrees colder than last year here for December. Coldest in 3 years, but still 12th warmest in 35 years, so above average on that front. 6% drier than last year, driest in 3 years, but still above average national precip, but very dry for the central and western part of the country. Snowfall up a bit, 20% more than last year, most in 3 years, but again, still below average on that front. There was a really cold spot. We'd say it's probably more toward the southeastern Florida. I think we're actually both below normal and much colder than last year. So again, a good seasonal lift for seasonal categories would probably be in that southeast part of the country here, again, where the trends were significantly more favorable for seasonal merchandise. Looking at season-to-date snowfall, this is 1 September through 4 January. Again, snowfall's 12% less than last year, 4% below average, 18th least in 35 years. So trending a bit below average, and that's kind of expected here as we go through the entire season here. Looking at the last week here of few days of December into early January here, this is a week ending Saturday. Big map is actually temperature trends versus last year on a retail calendar, how our customers like to look at it. U.S. was about 3.4 degrees colder than last year, coldest in 3, still above average nationally. 4% drier than last year, driest in 3. Go ahead, it's still very, very wet on a national scale. Looking at snowfall, up about 26%, making it the most in 3, but again, below average. Across Canada, a few degrees cooler than last year, so some lift in seasonal sales. Europe, probably a more significant lift with 3 degrees cooler, but coldest in 6 years across Europe. Russia, exponentially colder, 11.8 degrees colder than last year. So record hot last year to pretty cold this year. Coldest in 8 years across much of Russia, Siberia. China also cold, 5.1 degrees colder. Australia, again, they're somewhere down under. Coldest in 14 years. India, a tad warmer. And Brazil, a tad cooler. Maps inset left are trends versus average. One thing you're hearing about is the polar vortex is split up. And that always gets folks, meteorologists, excited because it can bring some Arctic invasions into your part of the world. It doesn't mean it's always going to head to the U.S. So, again, I heard a lot of meteorologists saying how the breaking up here is good news for snow lovers in the U.S. Not entirely true. Right now, the next 2 weeks at least show China, Siberia, and parts of Europe are the big recipients of the splitting of this vortex. It actually looks like it becomes a bit more symmetrical later in the period here. So a symmetrical vortex just means the cold stays bottled up across the North Pole. When it splits like this, it just invades different parts of the Northern Hemisphere. So nothing for the U.S. right now. Maybe late in the third week of January here. Might get a glancing blow in the Great Lakes Northeast, but that's TBD. So again, nothing here in the next 2 weeks, and we'll talk about that. This week here, 4 through 10 January, again, a tad cooler than last year, 1.4 cooler. Coolest in 3, but it's still 11th warmest in 35 years, so above average temperatures across the country. Driest in 9, 6th driest in 35 years, so much below average precip right now. Snowiest in 3 years, but that's still below average. We'll have to watch a minor system going through the country here, but not much as we look at these 6-day snowfall maps here. Tuesday, Wednesday night, Thursday. Something to watch maybe as we get toward the weekend here along the East Coast, but again, I think it's going to be a system that progresses out to sea. So again, a fast moving pattern with not a lot of snow here this week, again, across much of the country. Looking at next week, again, the second week here of January, about 3.6 degrees colder than last year, but again, keep in mind last year was a near record hot, so 15th warmest in 35 years, so still above average national precip or temperature trends. Driest in 12 years, 6th driest in 35 years, so much below average in terms of rainfall, but snowfall actually similar to last year, so about 8th most in 35 years. Again, we'll have to watch. Models are hinting at a coastal storm in the east sometime around 11th, 12th time frame. Again, I wouldn't get too excited this early at this stage, but again, if you're looking for snow, you'll be looking at the early part of next week along the east coast. Probably going to be a progressive pattern where, again, what we've seen is systems cutting off to the west, so more snow for the Great Lakes, and then just rain along the east coast, but something to watch. Looking at the world forecast trends, now these are 2-week aggregate. This big map here is temperatures versus average, so again, wall-to-wall warm across Canada. So we're not seeing that polar vortex here in the 2-week aggregate. We see more of those trends in China, where it's very, very cold, Siberia, even southwest Russia, Europe. So again, Europe, China, Siberia, Russia are the winners of the splitting of the vortex. North America is not, at least for the next 2 weeks. We put out a video here a few weeks ago to our farmer customers, about 8,700 of them, on our ag outlook for the U.S., China, South America, Ukraine. So again, it's our 2021 outlook. Check that out on our YouTube channel. We just turned that on to everyone here this past week. With 2021 now, again, I hope you can look back on 2020 and find some bright spots, and obviously a challenging year for all of us. But again, let's dwell on the positives, and we certainly had some positives here. So again, our little one turned 5 here this week, and again, she was the princess phase of 2020. So the one thing we will remember is the little one being every possible princess you can imagine. So again, hope you can find some bright spots in your 2020, and let's pray. And 2021 is even exponentially better. So obviously, hopefully some good news in the year ahead. So with that, folks, we hope you have a great week. God bless you, and we will see you here this time next week.